Hello again. After we switched back to Greenwich Mean Time at the end of October, I spoke a little bit about darkness. We're well past the winter solstice now, so in theory the days should be getting a bit lighter, but the way the weather is at the moment, that's not the case. It's gloomy here. We've had a couple of days of especially thick cloud and dampness, bits of mist, bits of drizzle, sometimes proper rain. Yesterday, my son and I went out for our exercise with our cameras at a very specific time. I don't think either of us had been out of the house for a couple of days, so it was well overdue. But what was not overdue was an unusual train heading down past us on the line, which is just a few minutes' walk from the house here. So we went off to get some air, to stretch our legs, and to indulge our hobby a little, with the aim of stopping both our bodies and our mood from sinking down too low. But by goodness, it was gloomy. Back in the days when I used slow slide film, it would have been impossible to take a picture without the train being blurry because I would have needed such a slow shutter speed. The digital camera I used yesterday is much better for that kind of thing, but it's more than a decade old now, and it certainly wasn't a top spec one even when it was new. So it's still nowhere near up to the standard of one you could buy now. More and more these days, with developing technology, you can get over the issue of it being very dark. But there's always a compromise, and the quality is never as good as when there's more light around. Anyway, we saw the train and just about got our photos. It was a bit frustrating because the thing had apparently been passed in the middle of the day and a couple of times this week, when the light would have been at least marginally better. I'm very lucky to sometimes be able to be flexible enough with my time to indulge this interest of mine in photographing the railway, but I can't just drop everything and go whenever I want, of course. And yesterday afternoon was gloomy. Today is gloomy too. During the night we thought we'd had a power cut and we were considering how we were going to manage today, with me having to submit some written work to college, as well as the two other residents of this house needing access to the internet for work and for sixth form classes. And it was dark when we got up. Fortunately, it turned out that it was just one of the switches in the fuse box which had tripped, so we could simply reset it and we have the wonder of electricity available again. And if I want, I can make a stab at overcoming the gloom just by flicking a switch and putting on one of the many electric lights we have at our disposal. Many people who live, for example, with seasonal affective disorder and the like, can find some relief with the aid of decent artificial light. Though if you've ever tried much photography indoors, you'll realise that our normal household lights are just nowhere near the brightness of actual daylight. And there's plenty of metaphorical gloom around at the moment too, of course. Worrying global political news coming out of the USA. Troubles and disruption in the early days beyond the Brexit transition period. And of course, COVID. In a prayer meeting this morning, the person who was leading mentioned the words of Jesus as told in John's Gospel when Andrew and another disciple of John the Baptist wonder about following Jesus. And Jesus replies by saying, "Come and see. Come and see." I once preached on that text using another photograph of a train, one in which the train is also disappearing into the gloom round a curve in the track and its red tail lights are clearly visible. And I remember talking about how a photo like that might make you wonder where the train is going, what's round the corner. Might make you think, come and see. Come and see is not an easy answer. It's hard to see in the gloom, it's hard to see in the darkness. But remember that one of the images of the presence of God in the Hebrew Scriptures is precisely an image of thick black cloud. Maybe sometimes it's not meant to be easy to see. I remember reading some time ago about a psychological experiment done on fonts. People had to read things which had been typeset in a variety of different fonts. Some fonts, as you know, are really easy to read. Others actually require quite an effort. I remember being fascinated by the result, which, if I remember correctly, was that you could read things in a clear font much more easily and quickly than the things in an obscure font. But people remembered better what they had read in the obscure font. The content stuck more. Needing to think a bit, needing to work at it a bit, seemed to pay off. Some of the broadcast seed grows quickly but doesn't stick. Sometimes exactly what you need is a sign which is nice and easy and clear to read. But sometimes you need something which will stay with you. Maybe Gloom can be good. God bless. See you soon.